Welcome to Beer Net Radio. Listen to on every continent except Antarctica. B-E-E-R-R-N-E-T.
Beer.
Beer Net Radio.
Check. Yeah, it's working.
Oh, look at you. Such an overachiever on so early. Got your duties.
I have duties.
Got duties all day with my duties. So, Harry, you're going to love this. You're going to get mad, but I don't care. It's a good story anyway.
All right.
I can tell you because, I mean, we could talk about all the times you've lost your laptops in various and sundry places.
Yep.
On planes. How many times have you lost it on a plane? Laptop on a
Probably 3 or 4 times.
Okay. All right. So I made you say that because I'm about to tell you what I just did to my laptop.
Yeah.
It's still sort of working. And it's like, I'm pretty sure you got me this laptop in 2017 or 18 before Twinkle Toes.
Yeah.
So when was it? Like the end of May. I accidentally left it in the car in my little rolly suitcase underneath like my face products. And so when I opened it, it was like the blob. So I have like this little weird spot in the corner and I can barely see when I'm typing sometimes.
Well, I tell you what, if it's 4 years old, we'll go ahead and get you a new one.
Yes.
We'll put it, I'm getting our new reporter one anyway. So I'll just order 2. I have your address.
Okay.
Or I'll just, yeah.
I have your address.
Well, it's funny because I broke my laptop a couple weeks ago, but I had a spare because I always keep 2. And then I left this one at the Tesla dealership while I was getting my Tesla fixed. And then I didn't know why I'd left it there. So I spent a day looking for it and then got it back. And then I left it somewhere else and they called me. But yeah, no worries.
Yes.
So tell me, like, so Modern Times is sold for 20 million, but we still don't know who the buyer is, right?
No, it's Brewery X. It's just called Brewery X.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a placeholder the first time I read it.
Everybody did. I've talked to other people too who were like, Brewery X, who the hell's Brewery? And these are like retailers who would know. So
it's just, but it is a placeholder, right? For somebody,
no,
it's just a new entity called Brewery X.
It's an Anaheim beer.
Yeah, they're out of Anaheim. It's not a done deal yet.
Yeah.
They have 2 weeks to close. If they don't, then Maui can grab it.
Right. At the same price.
No, for 15.3.
Oh, for a cheaper price.
Yeah. And then there was another bidder in there that was bidding on behalf of True Colors that they actually had the highest bid, but they had a longer closing time and the option of having Modern Times file for bankruptcy afterwards. And so they didn't go with that deal.
Right.
And it sounds
pretty
like
much the banks are running the show over there at Modern Times, I would say. And they're just trying to, because I know that, they literally ran out of money, like payroll type situation. And I think that's why they're eager to close as long as they get because I think they're having trouble paying their people. That's tough. That's a tough place to be. But well, it's not a seller's market right now, as we know from Stone.
Right. Well, here's a full circle. So you guys know Jacob McKean, right? He's the one who started Modern Times.
Yeah.
I remember Jacob. He used to be communications guy at Stone. He left to start this brewery. We don't really talk anymore, but we were kind of buds back then. And I remember being like, Jacob, what are you doing? Like, you're gonna start this brewery. And for a couple of years, it seemed like they could do no wrong, right?
Yeah.
They were doing well. They were opening tap rooms everywhere. Well, turns out, well, of course, there was the whole, Me Too thing 2 years ago that, he came out as not necessarily anything sexually related, but, that he was a terrible boss.
Right.
I'm like, isn't everybody a terrible boss?
Well, I mean, I certainly am. And we all know that, but at least I'm transparent about it. Well, that's, we predicted it. We said March and April, there's going to be a rash of craft deals because that's when all the stimulus money runs out, and so it's just been a rough time, and I don't think it's even over yet. But gosh, I mean, Stone went for about $500 a barrel, probably lower than that, because I don't even know if we included RTDs in that number, because the BA's number doesn't include seltzers. But I mean, it's this Buena Vista, whatever it's called.
It's not that
Buena Vista, but
Buena Vista. But the point is, it's lower than. I mean, it's a cheap price.
Yeah, but how much of I get that figure, but how much of that was really dedicated to the Stone brand and not just Stone's capacity?
Right? Yeah, I mean, totally. Yeah, I probably zero on the brand and all of it to the capacity.
First and foremost to the capacity. I think they do want to leverage the brands too. At least they say that in filings. But yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't think.
I mean, they can go to a chain now, at least on the coast, and say, "Hey, we have more to bring you as far as programs, because we have all these Stone brands plus Sapporo and but."
Or if you want Stone, you got to take Sapporo.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, gosh, Carlos Alvarez, he should run that game forever. If you want Corona, you got to take Shiner. And they'd be like, yeah, but we're in New Jersey. Nobody drinks Shiner up here. They're
doing pretty well for Shiner. So
yeah. Well, Montauk does pretty good down here. So you don't know. Interesting. Well, what has everybody got in the hopper for this 4th of July weekend? Lake. Have you put that baby on water skis yet?
I think we might give it a shot this weekend.
All right. Throw on the
One
tube.
of those big crowded weekends is probably the best time for her to learn.
Oh man.
Yeah, there's lots of people to catch her, right?
Yeah. Shouldn't be choppy at all.
Yeah. Good Lord. Jen, what have you done?
We have a neighborhood parade, and Friday I'm cutting out a little early to take the kids to see Gru, the Rise of Minions, or
Nice.
Rise of Gru, Minions.
Yes.
I'm so excited about that.
I took Ella to see what did I take her to see? Buzz Lightyear. It was pretty good. It was funny.
People are losing their minds over it.
Oh, really?
Because Tim Allen's not Buzz Lightyear.
No, because there's some same-sex family in it,
Oh, who cares? Good Lord.
Exactly. Who cares?
Who cares? Right.
Welcome.
All right. Well, let's let Metzger in. I haven't talked to that guy in a long time.
Can I introduce him?
Of course you can.
Yay! Look at old Scotty.
Get a load of this gang.
Wait. Let me officially introduce you, Scott. Let me officially welcome to BeerNet Radio, Scott Metzger, COO of Maui Brewing Co. and San Antonio OG, and most importantly, distinguished alum of St. Anthony's Catholic High. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
That is a good. I was just gonna say, here's Scott. He makes beer.
Here's Scott.
He's made beer for a long time. How you been, Scott?
I've been good.
Where do you live?
I live in this little tiny rock in the middle of the Pacific Ocean called Maui.
So you're actually there in Hawaii.
Yeah, I'm here.
So let me get this straight. You went from San Antonio, which everybody knows is just a little slice of heaven on earth, especially right now when it's 100,000 degrees. And then you went from the hottest place to the coldest place, Bristol, Massachusetts or something. Wista, even worse, even colder. It sounds like. Gosh, you're on a roll, and I'll let Jen ask you some questions here. But congratulations on your move to Maui. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's the only place to get good Mexican food is my kitchen.
Bet.
But other than that, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, Scott, I'm not going to pull any punches. I'm not going to go easy on you. I'm going to ask you the tough question first. You ready?
Sure.
How many times do you see Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson?
Well, it's easy to get Garrett confused with The Rock. So sometimes I think I see him, but no, I've not encountered The Rock or Oprah or Bezos or anyone else of note. I do see occasionally this little green McLaren drive by. And I see some Ferraris and Lamborghinis, and I don't understand the purpose of them on this island where there's nowhere to drive to. Like in the speed limit, the max speed limit on site is 45 miles an hour.
Oh man.
So it seems like a waste. But there are some notable residents here on the island.
Nice. I think we've got Garrett joining us as well. So I'll let him get queued up. I'll let Harry.
Yeah, Garrett, do y'all have cell service on the island yet? Is that something?
We just got it, and you'll notice it's spotty. So yeah, a little.
Well, welcome to BeerNet Radio, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, nice to see you guys.
You too.
Nice to see you. Well, I'm just gonna, we were in the gorgeous metropolis of Minneapolis a month or so ago, chatting about how awesome things have been for you guys this year. Seeing some great trends, and you guys actually put out a release that your flagships like Bikini Blonde Lager and Pog Hard Seltzer are up 50%, but you're suffering from out of stocks because you need capacity, right? So
Yep.
How are your brands doing so well when craft and seltzer is otherwise in the toilet?
That's that's a very direct question. Other brands in the toilet, I guess. For us, I think for us, two things. One, we're seeing all this press about revenge travel. Where people were, pent up demand to get out of town. They were locked up for 2.5 years. Anecdotally, I talked to a guy yesterday. Hawaiian Airlines is getting ready to make their first flight from New Zealand to Hawaii after 27 months and 2 days. 2 weeks. And, there's a lot of people that have been stuck. Some are traveling, but there's still some fear around COVID. So I think our brand being a lifestyle, but geographic centric, that, hey, this is Maui. We like to say we bring you back to Maui 12 ounces at a time. And that's kind of the effect that our brand has on people who, maybe can't get out here right now because hotels are at record prices. Airfares have gone up tremendously. I think that's one part of it. But, we've really had demand in a lot of areas across the country for years that we just never really addressed. There was a point pre-COVID that we were looking to pull out of East Coast markets and really just focus on Hawaii and West Coast, which would have put us over 60,000 barrels on its own. But during COVID, we realized how, overnight we could lose 60% of our audience in tourism. So we decided to kind of lean into the mainland and cover some of the white space that our brand has over there. And I think that's really the primary driver. That lastly, I would just say that here locally, we're growing tremendously as well. I'd say about half our growth is Hawaii. And we've seen an even deepened commitment to buying local after, everything that went down with COVID, and, not only from the on and off premise side, but also from the consumer side of saying, hey, I want local. And that's what we have to offer. So I think those are the kind of the three primary drive factors beyond just killer beer and an amazing sales team.
Nice. All right, cool. Well, so obviously lots of demand, right? That's a great thing. Need more capacity. To that end, you guys cast the opening bid for Modern Times last month at 7 mil. At this point, it looks like Brewery X could possibly get it at 20 mil. But my question, I guess, is, did you guys really want to acquire Modern Times, or did you just want to let people know that you were shopping?
That's a great question. We've thought about that a bit. And just for the record too, I know the order was entered, and Brewery X will acquire Modern Times. And then we are the backup bid in the event that they don't close. But yeah, we definitely wanted to acquire it. This was not, what do you call it? We weren't peacocking. This was for sure us saying, hey, this is a cool brand. Like, I met the original founder, Jacob, when he was doing social media for Stone back in, I don't know, whenever we did the first Aloha Plenty collaboration. I think it was the first collaboration we'd ever done. And, I remember that. And then when he broke off to start Modern Times, we followed the brand, we drank the beer, we have a lot of the same friends. It's my hometown. So when we saw they were, we knew they were in trouble for a while, but when we saw the opportunity, we jumped in and in the end made the bid as the stalking horse. And, the records are all public now, but we more than doubled that bid during the auction. So I think that alone, tells you that we were serious buyers, and we were there to really restore Modern Times to where it should be and run it like a real business, and, lean and mean, and, bring back all the things that made it great. So, we're sad that it didn't go through, but at the same time, we accomplished the side goal of, really showing our strength in the market, not only for our brand created over the last, almost 18 years now.
Cool. So theoretically, you guys are still shopping then?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've had a couple emails this morning on either, facilities or, other brands. I mean, since all this news is broken, I mean, I've probably fielded at least a dozen calls from, either brokers or different breweries that are, not publicly doing anything yet. But yeah, we're certainly interested, but it's got to be the right opportunity. I hate to say it, but we're fairly opportunistic buyers at the moment. Meaning we're not going to pay a 20 times EBITDA. That's just not. We're not a strategic in that way. Craft on craft is naturally typically going to bring a lower multiple, but allow the brands to continue in their, in the independence mode, if you will. So,
yeah. All right. It seems like a good time to buy iron right now, as well as brands.
Yeah, no, agreed. I think worst time to buy a house. I think best time to buy a brewery.
Right. Thanks. I just bought a house. Appreciate you.
Right
at the peak.
I did too, Harry. I did too. I just bought a place in Jackson. I have a condo, not a house, but a condo.
Well, hey, at least our interest rates are low.
Yes, I locked in right before before we got to fours. So
Me too.
Yeah.
Oh well.
I think along the lines of what Garrett's talking about, though, right, is that Maui does not need to make an acquisition. We're certainly in a really strong place with production out here out of Kihei, in combination with contract partners on the mainland. I think the future is bright for us, independent of any kind of M&A activity. So that really gets us in a really nice, high perched view of only looking at deals that make a lot of sense on very different levels. I think Modern Times made a lot of sense. Was that it was a strong brand with an existing book of business that represented a fairly good amount of volume too. So I think when you took that, layered on our volume, all of a sudden overnight you had the kind of scale to really make that a very efficient business. I don't think, and we've already gotten these kind of like solicitations like, hey, I've got my little 1,200 barrel brewery that I want $8 million for. Just taking that and bolting on Maui doesn't create the scale necessary to really have a well-run, lean operation. So for us, I think that scale is important, but also it's got to be a brand that really jives well with the Maui brand. I don't think, not to pick on any state in particular, but let's say a small little brewery in Kansas doesn't really necessarily drive or fit with Maui. So there's a lot of things that have to make sense for us on the deal front. But I do think a lot of those opportunities are out there or being contemplated, certainly without the fanfare of a Modern Times. I did see an article this morning of another, one in a similar position, it sounds like. So I think we'll see more of this, especially as all this, government assistance, in the COVID era kind of dries out. That was probably keeping a lot of breweries afloat. And now people are turning and saying, now what?
You're talking about Melvin Scott?
I see all sorts of things.
I see all things. Right? I see all things. Just one more for me, and then I'll pass it off. Talking about Cali sales on the flip side, I'm sure it's not lost on you guys that obviously Stone and Sapporo are getting together. SDC is left out of that. You guys are with SDC in SoCal. Does that make you nervous at all, or any thoughts on that?
I'll go first. I think I'm glad the SDC is left out of it, frankly, just because it's not like Sapporo brings any real benefit on distribution side. So, other than capital, right? And I think the brewery itself, I think it's, long, almost old news at this point, where Stone's position was, given the preferred equity situation from BMG I think it's a good thing for them. You've got a brewery that has a ton of excess capacity. owners that have been around for 30 years plus, and at some point people need to move on. I mean, there's I try not to pigeonhole myself too much, right? And definitely now I'm 43. I'm not saying never like I used to, but I think it's an opportunity that makes sense for Stone to really give the owners some of the freedom that they deserve after working this for so long. Admittedly, my tune has changed on much of this over the years as any young man getting in the business I was 26, I'm going to do this forever. And, the world is, you've got a snapshot of the world when you're 26 that is not representative of the world when you're 40, 50, 60, whatever. So I don't deny anybody the ability for success. I told someone that we shouldn't be villainizing breweries that sell, because you're basically saying once you start that business, you're beholden to it forever and you can never realize that success. I don't think that's fair. Any other industry, your customers, your competitors, seller, buyer, everybody's popping bottles, buying you drinks because, hey, congratulations, you did it. I think that's something that we should take into craft beer and find a way that we don't have to villainize for it. You can still vote with your dollars. And this is why I've always been a person that's really keen on transparency. Like, I'm not saying don't brew your beer out of state of Hawaii, like we do even now, just saying tell the customer. So that way they're armed with the information so they can make accurate decisions. And I think if you go through an acquisition and you continue to operate the company in that light, your customers really don't have anything to fear. Now, if it's an about face and all of a sudden it's a whole different company with a whole different ethos and all that, then of course it's just a shadow of what it once was. So like I said, in SD Beer News, I would say just relax, have a beer, and just give them a chance. It's at the end of the day, to borrow from Kim Jordan, we're not curing cancer here. We're making beer, so relax.
Right. I mean, I agree. If you think about how the consumer has gone from the days of Goose Island selling to AB compared to today, and I don't. There's still an uproar with the core nerds, but really, even on Twitter, it's not as a huge deal as it used to be, because really it's just the capital structure is changing, and a lot in some ways. The beer remains the same, if not better, fresher. So yeah, it's always been kind of a silly thing. And you're right. It's only in the beer industry. It's kind of a unique part of our culture in our little corner of CPG.
Yeah. But this is, kind of goes in with just the overall maturation of our little segment of the industry. Right. And I think, I've had the benefit of, almost, a decade and a half in this industry at different size companies. And I look back on it now that we have 10,000 craft breweries, and I'd venture to say 95 to 98% of them are, pretty poorly run manufacturing facilities. And I think right now, there's the supply chain challenges and the economic environment around us really puts an emphasis on good organizational structure and good operational, practices. And I think that's where some of these combinations start to make a lot of sense. Now, if you want to be a small little, direct to consumer brewery and make a living for yourself, that's great. You can do that. But I think getting caught in that dead man zone of being a 5,000 to 20,000 barrel regional brewery, really puts a lot of pressure on you to have to try to find some sort of strategic partner. And I think we are going to see this, big separation between the little pups and the big dogs, so to speak, of, everyone in that dead zone is going to have to find a dance partner, or they're going to be left, just clawing for scraps. And I think that's where it makes a lot of sense. And a lot of people are coming to that realization and saying, there's nothing wrong with being a smart business person.
Well, I think we talked a lot about
the acquisition changes it too much, but it is on how the company continues. And, for me, to Scott's point, when you're looking at supply chain logistics, you're looking at even just getting cans, the bigger you are, the better it is in some cases. And, it doesn't really change who we are. it just changes how we buy things in many ways. And, we're going to continue to see consolidation in this industry. There's just, I don't think any way around that. But going back to this, like the idea of, villainizing an owner for realizing some success, it's, at some point, I think everybody has to cross that bridge, because, this business, a lot of people don't know, like a lot of people in this situation where we run this year we'll do 90 to 100,000 barrels, what it takes to get there from when we were a 300 barrel brewery back in 2005, very different things, right? So the CapEx, the organizational structure, insurance, safety, with a lot of breweries you run around the country, and I walk through and I'm like, someone's going to die here, right? And we need to be pushing the professionalizing of the industry, not only in safety, but in taking care of your teammates. Also, too, with equity, DE&I, equity and inclusion especially, that you need to be able to, invest in these things. And when you're a really small brewery, you have a lot less cash flow to put into those types of programs that really help to overall better the industry. And in fairness, it's our good friend Russell Adkins, who passed away, our CFO last December. He used to tell me when I was get down, he's like, I know it's lonely at the top, come over and have a beer. And it can be. This business is something that, has given me so much, but it has come at a great cost personally and professionally. So, I think at some point your customers, being able to share your story is important, because, they're investing in you by buying that beer. And at some point I'm going to move on. I mean, I don't have children, right? I've got a great team led by Scott and Junk and Nick, Kim, bunch of great people here. But at the same time, like what do I get to do, right? So do I just have to take a salary and coast off into a pasture somewhere until I just roll over and die? Or, do I get to have a day one day too? That's the way I kind of look at it. And it's a little bit different than maybe when I was 26, but I'm not giving up the idea of independence. I'm not giving up, what a lot of the craft beer mentality first started out as, but it has morphed a little bit for me over the years. So I think there's a middle ground, a way to cut it fairly for everyone. My rant.
No, I appreciate it, because I was going to ask you about that. I mean, you're a leader at the Brewers Association, and I'm wondering if they have a similar kind of feel to you. Is it still like these deals like Stone and Bell's losing their independence? Does it still kind of elicit a gut punch to the organization, or have they kind of gotten used to it too?
Well, I think in fairness, I don't know that it ever was really a gut punch. I mean, I think there's an emotion to it, of course, but I can tell you, I don't want to speak for anyone at the BA, right, but this is just another day in business. So, the craft data set lost 350,000 barrels from Stone. Okay, next, right? We focused on the members and that we do have, not the members we lost. And there has never been an instant at the BA where it's a brewery sells and it's persona non grata, never talking to that person again. At our events, like when it's just BA board or BA members, we might not have that beer at that event, like a social hour maybe, but that's because you got to remember, the BA is there to promote and protect small and independent craft brewers. So why would we serve a beer that isn't one of our members' beers, right? But it has nothing to do. It's not like, Greg and Steve aren't going to be welcome anywhere that the BA has an event, or that, Kim's an icon in the industry as well. And, we still call her from time to time for her advice. So I think there was a public aspect that said, oh, the BA is against these sales. Not the case. We're happy for them, and this is where BA, it's just not not in the set anymore. And so, like I said, move on. Next thing.
Gotcha. That's good to hear. And another thing I wanted to talk about was your spirit side of the business, Kupu Spirits. Am I saying that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Kupu. Yep.
How is that business going?
Well, I'm a romantic, so I'll talk about Kupu, and I'll let Scott talk about numbers a little bit. I'm a finance guy, from birth, but that's not what gets me excited. Kupu, what a Kupu is essentially the offshoot. It represents a new beginning. but it refers to that offshoot coming from an existing base, an existing foundation, if you will. So that foundation we view as Maui Brewing Company. We've built our reputation on high quality, innovative, authentic, local craft beer. And so our kupu, our offshoot, is the spirit side of things, the distillery. And kupu, if you think about it, if you look at our logo, it's kind of like a palm fern, like a fern. The frond coming off from the middle. It's the kupu is that new offshoot. I think in the Northeast they call them fiddleheads, and out here we call them pohole. And the kupu is that new growth, and it's protected and supported by that existing base. So it gives you an idea of why we called it kupu and what it means and how it still ties directly back to the Maui Brewing Company, what we call the brand Ohana, which is Maui Hard Seltzer, Maui Brewing Company, and Kupu Spirits. Over to you, Scott, on sales.
Yeah, well, so it's been an interesting year for Kupu. On the straight spirit side, we're seeing tremendous growth, and we have a really fantastic liquid. Our gin wins a pretty hefty share of awards whenever we send it out. And I know Harry is more of a vodka martini guy, but maybe he'll try a gin martini one of these times with some Kupu. But our aged whiskey is great too. We have a lot of big plans for the RTD portion of our portfolio there. Right now, it's kind of caught up with a lot of things at our brewery of what we produce here in Kihei, which is just running up against the physical capacity constraints of the brewery. So we are pretty much running at 100% right now. We have some projects that are nearing completion and some others that are being contemplated to increase capacity here. But we're expecting in the back half of the year for Kupu RTD to really have a lot more availability, and we can see, what kind of legs that it has out there in the market. Simultaneously, we're looking at, kind of expanding that portfolio of flavors within that family. And I think you're going to see some big things coming from Kupu in 2023.
Yeah, modern times deal may not be you may still get it, that's can't rule that out. Just wanted to throw that out there.
That is that's in the back of my mind. Well, good to point that out, Harry. We are the backup bid, I think we're the backup bid at 15.3, I think is what was filed, something like that. So it's certainly a potential, and I don't know how that actually works, and I've held off calling the lawyer because I saw the bill already. So I figure I'm not worried about it unless those guys don't close on July 7th. But we'll see about that. I think too on the whiskey and gin too, just even the bottled spirits, they are performing really well, and we've sacrificed RTD capacity for making sure we have enough Bikini Blonde in cans, if you will. But the bottled production still continues to grow, and it's impressive to see how much we're selling of both the gin and the whiskey in California. Therese, our NorCal market, and Southern California, Kelsey, crushing it with the whiskey and the gin. And then here in Hawaii, outside of even just our 4 restaurants, we're seeing tremendous demand for the gin and the whiskey as well. So that's good. And then we recently released an Amaro, which is a vegan Amaro. And it's colored with hibiscus, so it has a little bit of a unique, what we call island Amaro flavor, and that works really well with both the gin and the whiskey. So, continuing to grow that side of the portfolio as well.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it has to be pretty difficult for a craft spirits company to do full strength spirits and canned cocktails. It seems like as a craft spirits producer, it would have to be almost one or the other. Is that kind of the way it is?
No, I they kind of live in different channels, and I don't think it's the spirits and the RTDs that really compete for time or attention. The RTDs kind of live in the same process stream that our seltzers or our beers do. So it's really just finding time on the line to make the RTDs. That's a bigger issue. Now, granted, right, our capabilities here in Kihei are different than maybe some other small distilleries. So we're coming at it from the perspective that we already have a fairly sizable brewery at our disposal. So high-speed canning line. We have a de-aerated water and skid and blending being put in that'll really automate a lot of this processing. A small startup distiller is not going to have these things. So we're kind of coming at it from a different angle and different approach than maybe a craft distiller typically would.
Yeah, because they always say that packaging is the bottleneck, not, excuse the pun, but, brewing capacity is easy. It's putting it in those little 12 and 16 ounce pack containers. That's kind of the rough part. And you got that down.
I'm glad you brought that up, Harry, because I do think if I can make a plea for some respect for what we do, right? Putting liquid in a tiny little can, that's going to be stable and carbonated and stay delicious. This is an engineering marvel, and
it is.
We currently have about 350 engineering marvels per minute on our can line. And it takes our fans and drinkers all of about 3 minutes to appreciate and deplete those little engineering marvels. So next time you crack open a can, just appreciate
I do it every time.
Just
Scott,
don't. What's went into that.
It is true, and it's consistent too. It has to taste the same. I don't even know how you do that. If I made a product, it would taste different every single time you open the can. And maybe that's a good product idea. It's never going to be the same. You don't know. Yeah, it's a variety pack, but all the cans are the same.
Yeah, there you go. Well, yeah, to Scott's point too, I think, when we started our brew pub in Kahana, we did 320 barrels that first year. And, that's by comparison, I'm sitting out front of the brewery right now and I'm looking at all our fermenters, and the gross capacity of each of the 18 fermenters out here is more than what our annual volume was in year one. So each individual tank. So it's a little crazy for me to put that in perspective sometimes. But when we designed our first production facility, we basically made a big brew pub design of the warehouse, and it was wholly inefficient. We learned that only after operating it for a couple of years. And so even moving into Kihei, where we laid it out in a much more efficient fashion as a production brewery, I think what we did to the spirit side is, instead of say, we're this small craft distillery that's going to only make a little bit of spirits, we went after it with the design that, hey, we're going to make a lot of spirits. We're going to design this as a mini production facility so that it could be scalable instead of being pigeonholed into a very small brewery or small distillery. But having all the other resources at our disposal here that the brewery provides certainly helps that. We're getting ready to start. Scott mentioned the blender and the DAW skid, which will help tremendously on the RTD side. But we're getting ready to start installation on a new can line, which would take us to about 550 cans per minute on 12 ounce, and also automate mix packing as well with 2 robots. This is in response not only to demand, but also to labor constraints. And it just gives us an opportunity to continue to grow our investment in our local community here in Hawaii. I think lastly on Modern Times, because we're looking at one project is replacing our brew house here with a much larger system, again, demand and labor constraints, as well as our can line, those 2 pieces of equipment could very easily be reinstalled in a facility like Modern Times to give it much more capacity, efficiency, and automation that, frankly, they're operating that brewery with pretty much zero automation. And this would bring a lot more professionalism to that location as well. So we'll see if we're successful in the backup bid. Then we'll still keep these systems around for that.
Right. Well,
one thing I don't think we've talked about before we sign off, because I think we're probably signing off soon, but remind me what your distribution footprint is like, who you're with, and how far you're distributed.
So let's see, we distribute from Hawaii as far left as Japan and as far right as England. But England is kind of on and off right now. But really, if we're talking about the US, of course, Hawaii is our biggest market, followed by California, specifically Southern, but Northern's catching up. And then we do reach the East Coast, but it's very limited at the moment. We're with, in some areas, we're aligned with the AB network. In others, it's Miller Coors. We do have a lot of independents as well. I believe at last count, we're 23 states now. I think we've added a few this year that will be launching back half, probably latter this summer. only because capacity restraints kept us from doing it earlier. But with our growing contract brewing capacity, we're able to reach more places. So we're going to be coloring in a lot of the white space that we've got on the mainland for our brand.
Are there any distributors that you try to avoid ever?
WADs. That's out of just because we can't, and we wouldn't want to anyways. But I think there's a few out there, some that we've been with that we won't go back to, that were maybe bad marriages at the outset. And we're in some difficult relationships right now, but we're in therapy, and we'll continue to massage those. But I think we like to be in anything we do. We want to be aligned with our partner and have common goals. And if we're able to attain that, then hey, we're happy with our wholesalers. So we are glad that SDC is going to operate as it does. And going back to that, I mean, the Stone management team is, they're top notch, and so they're not going anywhere. Anyone that wants to stay, I know, is staying, and I think that's going to do wonders for not only Stone but also for Sapporo. But on the SDC side, we continue to grow there, and they've been great partners for us since they were our first wholesaler in California or outside of Hawaii. And they've been great partners since, I think, 2008. I signed that contract in San Diego at CBC over lunch with Greg and Steve and everybody at CBC itself. So I'll never forget that.
I wanted to ask one last question. How's competition in Hawaii with VP, taking over Kona? Have you noticed any sort of difference, or is it about the same as it was before?
I think it's very public, my opinion of that sale. I think it's a arm's length transaction, maybe. But at the end of the day, I would say it's different in that we're both grown up about it now. We argue a lot less. You got to remember when I first started, even up until the sale, I forget, was it the 100% part, before Peacock guys, when they went over to ABI, so there were a lot of original partners that were invested and still part of Kona. And there was a lot of emotion on their side when they were no longer the only force to be reckoned with, and they actually had someone calling out the authenticity, right? So I understand where those emotions came from. I would have been the same way. I think we have a healthy, competitive relationship. We don't have a lot of interaction. And I've said before, and I'll say again, we're very different companies. We respect what they do. It's not the way we want to do it, but it's their choice. I think as far as the other breweries, when we first started, there were like 4 breweries in the state of Hawaii, Kona being one of them. And now there are like 28 breweries with, I think, at least 4 or 5 more that I know of in planning. So, a lot of the legal challenges that we had initially that we faced to be able to allow the industry to grow has given birth to an industry here in Hawaii. So I think it's fairly collegial, but I think that if we were to take, say, Pineapple Mana Wheat and kick it out as its own brewery, I think it'd be the 3rd largest brewery in the state of Hawaii, just that one brand for us. So we're really representative of the entire industry in that we have an extremely long tail with just a couple people at the top. And, but I still serve on the guild board. We try to help local brewers wherever we can. And I like to think that we're at least respected, but we are looked at as big guys here, even though I don't really feel that way.
Yeah. I always, even back when I was a one-man shop, I was always afraid of going broke, and I'm still that way 25 years later. Yep. You're never comfortable, right, Jen? Are you comfortable, Jen?
That's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way,
especially
when
you
guys
like
mind
that.
waiting until Monday before you cash your paychecks?
That's awesome.
No,
I'm proud that we've never had that conversation. That in 18 years, it has never been a thing. And but you're right. I mean, believe me, Scott knows this, because I'll sit in his office sometimes and be like, "Why are we spending $800 on this?" It's like, yeah. And I wouldn't even notice, but he's asking me for one reason or another, or I'll see something and be like, "What's this invoice for?" Do we really need that?
Do we really need Beer Business Daily and Craft Business Daily?
Make a pick.
take a pic.
So,
No, we've never missed payroll either, but we have come close. And to the point where I had to call my mother once, and luckily I still made payroll, but she was in the back wings with a loan just in case. This was years ago though, Jen. Don't worry, Jordan. I think we're all right now. Well, good. Well, thank you guys for being on. Jen, do you want to say?
That was great, guys. Just keep looking out for the Rock and let me know if you see him, and I'll.
He's over on Oahu right now. I know. I saw a bunch of his stuff last week. He's staying at a house that's right next door to one of our partners on the restaurant division. And so I remember when he first moved in there for whatever he was filming. One of my partners to me like, dude, it's a really big guy. Like he could look down off his lanai into the yard, and he's like, he's as big as it seems.
Well, I had two Zoas for breakfast this morning, so I'm feeling pretty good.
Oh wow!
Blood pressure, Harry.
I'm gonna put a chain around my neck and walk around the gym. And,
there you go.
Well, good guys. Well, thanks for being on. Appreciate you drinking beer. I appreciate you making beer. And next time I'm in Maui, I'll look you up.
Yeah, invitation's always open for all of y'all.
All right, awesome. Okay, well, thanks, guys.
Thanks, y'all.
Take care.
All right, take care. Aloha, guys.